Welcome to History Hall of Fame, where today we uncover the untold story of how ordinary Americans fought against extraordinary odds to claim their rightful place in democracy. Voting is a cornerstone of democracy, but the right to vote in America has been anything but straightforward. From the early days of the Republic to modern times, the story of voting rights is one of struggle, suppression, and, ultimately, empowerment. Welcome to History Hall of Fame, where today, we uncover the hidden history of American voting rights. In the early days of the United States, voting was a privilege reserved for a select few. The Founding Fathers established a government by the people. But who exactly were the people? Only white, landowning men were deemed worthy of this right. Women, African Americans, Native Americans, and even white men without property were excluded from the democratic process. As the nation grew, so did the call for broader voting rights. But progress was slow and often met with fierce resistance. The Civil War and the end of slavery marked a turning point in American history. The 15th Amendment, ratified in 1870, was supposed to guarantee African American men the right to vote. But the reality was far different. Southern states quickly implemented Jim Crow laws to disenfranchise black voters. Literacy tests, poll taxes, and violent intimidation kept African Americans away from the polls. The promise of the 15th Amendment remained unfulfilled for nearly a century. It wasn't until the civil rights movement of the 1960s that change finally came. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson, was a landmark victory. It outlawed discriminatory voting practices and empowered the federal government to oversee elections in states with a history of voter suppression. This was a monumental step forward, but the struggle for voting rights was far from over. While African American men were fighting for their rights, another group was waging its own battle: women. The suffragettes fought tirelessly for decades to secure the right to vote. Women like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton spearheaded the movement, demanding that women's voices be heard in the democratic process. Their efforts culminated in the 19th Amendment, ratified in 1920, granting women the right to vote. But even then, the fight wasn't over. Many women of color, particularly in the South, continued to face barriers to voting. Today, the fight for voting rights continues. While the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was a significant milestone, recent years have seen renewed efforts to restrict access to the ballot box. From voter ID laws to gerrymandering and voter roll purges, many Americans, particularly people of color and the poor, still face challenges when trying to cast their ballots. The 2013 Supreme Court decision in Shelby County v. Holder weakened the Voting Rights Act, making it harder to protect against voter suppression. But just as in the past, Americans are fighting back. Grassroots movements and legal challenges are pushing for expanded access to voting, making sure that every citizen's voice is heard. From suppression to empowerment, the history of voting rights in America is a testament to the resilience of those who believe in the promise of democracy. The struggle continues, but so does the determination to achieve a more inclusive and just society. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And remember, history isn't just about the past, it's about shaping the future. You've just explored a pivotal chapter in America's ongoing journey toward a more just and inclusive democracy. If you found this deep dive into history enlightening, be sure to support the channel by hitting the like button, subscribing, and ringing the notification bell. At History Hall of Fame, we bring the past to life so we can better understand the present and together shape the future.